The Grand Plaza Hotel's crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead as my family gathered for Dad's 60th birthday celebration. My brother James had made sure everyone knew he'd booked the most expensive ballroom in the city's most prestigious hotel. What he didn't know was that I owned it. Sarah. My mother's voice carried that familiar note of disappointment. Couldn't you have dressed up a bit more for your father's birthday? I glanced down at my deliberately understated dress, which probably cost more than the designer outfit she was wearing. Not that I'd tell her that. Sorry, Mom. You know how it is on a consultant's salary. James snickered from behind his champagne glass. Still doing that independent consulting thing? What's it been, 5 years now? Actually, it had been 5 years since I'd started buying luxury hotels through my company, Aurora Hospitality Group. The consulting was just a cover that let me visit my properties without revealing I was the owner. Something like that, I replied mildly, watching the hotel staff execute the perfect service I'd trained them to provide. My phone buzzed quietly, a message from Marcus, my real executive assistant. Q3 numbers for Grand Plaza exceeded projections. Up 40% since acquisition. Board meeting tomorrow to discuss expansion. At least Rebecca has a real career, Mom sighed, nodding toward my sister who was showing off her law firm partnership ring to anyone who would look. When are you going to get a proper job? I bit back a smile, remembering the meeting scheduled for tomorrow where Rebecca's firm would pitch their services to Aurora Hospitality, not knowing they'd be presenting to her unsuccessful sister. I'm doing fine, Mom. Fine. James laughed. You live in that tiny downtown apartment while I'm about to close on a penthouse here at the Grand Plaza. What he didn't know was that his pending penthouse purchase had been sitting on my desk for approval. The sale price he was so proud of was actually well above market value, a detail I'd noted but hadn't corrected yet. Speaking of which, he continued loudly, let me give you all a tour of my future home after dinner. The hotel manager promised me a private showing. Right on cue, Thomas Chin, the Grand Plaza's general manager, approached our table. I'd hired him personally 2 years ago. Mr. Thompson, Thomas began, then stopped as he noticed me. His eyes widened slightly before his professional training kicked in. Ms. Thompson. Welcome back. I didn't realize you'd be joining us tonight. Your hotel is performing excellently this quarter. The silence that fell over our table was absolute. Her hotel. James's champagne glass froze halfway to his mouth. I watched my family's expressions shift from confusion to disbelief as Thomas continued, unaware of the bomb he'd just dropped. Yes, since Ms. Thompson's acquisition of the Grand Plaza Hotel Group 2 years ago, our revenues have doubled. The new wellness center she commissioned has been particularly successful. Mom's perfectly maintained composure cracked. Sarah, what is he talking about? I took a deliberate sip of champagne before answering. Aurora Hospitality Group. My company. We acquire and manage luxury hotels worldwide. The Grand Plaza was one of our first acquisitions. That's impossible, Rebecca interjected. Aurora Hospitality is a multi-billion-dollar corporation. They own half the luxury hotels in the country. Actually, I pulled out my phone displaying Aurora's corporate structure. We own closer to 60% now. The Martinez Group acquisition closed last week. James had gone pale, probably realizing who really controlled his pending penthouse purchase. But you're just a consultant. That's my cover, I explained calmly. It lets me visit our properties without causing a stir. Much easier to evaluate service standards when staff aren't nervous about the owner being present. Thomas, sensing the tension, smoothly excused himself but not before adding, shall I have the penthouse contracts brought up, Miss Thompson? For your brother's purchase. Later, Thomas, I smiled. Let's focus on Dad's birthday for now. The manager nodded and retreated, leaving my family to process this revelation. Dad hadn't said a word yet, his usual confident demeanor completely shattered. The consulting work Mom started was how I monitored our properties, I finished. While you all thought I was struggling to make ends meet, I was building one of the largest hospitality companies in the world. My phone buzzed again. Marcus updating me on tomorrow's meetings. Law firm presentations scheduled. Your sister's firm is first at 9 a.m. Rebecca was frantically texting, probably trying to verify what she'd just learned. Our firm's pitch tomorrow. It's for Aurora Hospitality? Yes, I confirmed. Though you might want to revise your proposal. The numbers you're planning to present are outdated. How did you know what numbers we're presenting? She demanded. Because I've already reviewed your pitch deck. I review all major proposals personally. I pulled up the document on my phone. You might also want to reconsider your fee structure. It's about 20% above market rate. James had finally found his voice again. The penthouse is overpriced, I noted. Though I've been too busy acquiring the Singapore luxury hotel group to adjust the listing. Mom's hand trembled as she reached for her wine glass. All those family vacations we didn't invite you to because we thought you couldn't afford them. We're at hotels I owned, I finished. Yes, I know. I saw the receipts. This is a joke, James declared, though his voice lacked conviction. Some elaborate prank. Mr. Chin, I called out to the manager who was hovering nearby. Please show my family the owner's suite. I think it's time they saw how their struggling sister really lives when she's in town. As we rode the private elevator to the top floor, I watched my family's reflections in the mirrored walls. Their world was tilting on its axis, every assumption they'd made about me crumbling. The doors opened directly into a stunning 5,000 square foot penthouse with panoramic city views. James's hoped-for apartment looked like a closet in comparison. This is your suite? Mom whispered, taking in the museum-quality art and bespoke furnishings. At this property, yes. I have similar accommodations at all our hotels. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. That building across the street. Also mine. The one next to it. Just acquired it last month. Rebecca was examining a framed magazine cover on the wall. My recent feature in Forbes. Top 40 under 40. Most influential women in hospitality. How did we not know? Because you didn't want to know, I replied simply. It was easier to dismiss me as unsuccessful than to question your assumptions. My phone buzzed with another message from Marcus. Singapore acquisition complete. Company value now exceeds $10 billion. Dad finally spoke, his voice uncharacteristically small. Why didn't you tell us? Would it have mattered? I asked, turning to face them. Every family gathering for the past 5 years has been an exercise in condescension. Get a real job, Sarah. Stop playing at business, Sarah. Be more like your siblings, Sarah. I walked to a hidden panel, opening it to reveal a state-of-the-art control center. While you were mocking my career choices, I was building this. Aurora Hospitality now owns over 200 luxury properties across 5 continents. That consulting work you dismissed? It was me personally evaluating every property before acquisition. James had wandered to the window, probably looking at his now uncertain penthouse purchase. The contract is void, I confirmed. The price was inflated because the sales team didn't know I was the owner. I'll have them draw up a new one at fair market value, assuming you still want it. Sarah. Mom stepped forward, her designer heels sinking into the plush carpet that probably cost more than her car. We had no idea. Clearly. I pressed a button and screens descended from the ceiling, displaying real-time data from Aurora's global operations. Would you like to see what your unemployed daughter has really been doing? Here's our latest acquisition in Singapore. The new resort development in Dubai. The luxury chain we just bought in Europe. Rebecca had found her lawyer voice again. Our firm's presentation tomorrow. Won't be necessary, I cut her off. I've already decided to go with Mitchell & Associates. Their proposal was more innovative and significantly better priced. But we're family, she protested. Funny, I replied coldly. That didn't seem to matter when you were all mocking my career choices. When you excluded me from family vacations because you thought I couldn't afford them. When you held business meetings at my hotels without ever wondering how I might be connected to them. Just then Thomas appeared with a champagne cart. Miss Thompson, shall we proceed with your father's birthday celebration up here? I watched my family's faces as they realized the staff had been waiting for my instruction, not James's planned tour. Yes, Thomas. And please have the expansion plans brought up. I might as well show my family exactly what they've been dismissing. As Thomas efficiently set up the celebration, I turned back to my stunned relatives. Did you ever wonder why you always got the best suites? Why your restaurant reservations were never refused? Why the staff treated you like VIPs even when you weren't acting like them? Mom sank into a custom-designed sofa that cost more than her entire house. All those times we bragged about staying at the Grand Plaza. You were bragging about staying at my hotel, I finished. Just like you were bragging about dining at my restaurants, shopping at my retail spaces, and spending time at my resorts. James was still staring at the city view. The penthouse I wanted is directly below this one, I confirmed. Though this suite isn't for sale at any price. Being the owner has its privileges. The screens around us continued displaying Aurora's global operations, an empire I'd built while they thought I was barely getting by. Each property, each acquisition, each success they'd missed because they were too busy judging to notice. The Singapore deal that closed today? I gestured to one screen. Worth $2.3 billion. That consulting meeting I couldn't miss last Christmas? Was me negotiating the purchase of Europe's most prestigious hotel chain. While you were all pitying my absence from family gatherings, I was building something extraordinary. Rebecca had found the recent financial reports left on my desk. These numbers, they're bigger than your law firm's entire client portfolio? Yes. I took the reports from her hands. Aurora Hospitality Group's current valuation is just over $10 billion. Not bad for someone you all thought couldn't afford a proper job. Dad stood by the windows, looking out at the city where his daughter apparently owned half the skyline. I was wrong about you, Sarah. We all were. Yes, you were, I agreed. But now you have a choice. You can either be the family who mocked their billionaire daughter because they were too prejudiced to see her success, or you can be the family who finally learns to look past appearances. My phone buzzed again. Marcus reminding me about tomorrow's board meeting. Now, shall we celebrate Dad's birthday? The staff has prepared something special. Though not quite as special as they would have if they'd known the owner was attending. As my family struggled to adjust to their new reality, I watched the sun setting over my city. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong. It's about letting them discover just how wrong they were all by themselves. Mom found her voice again. All those times we insisted on paying for your meals here were amusing, I finished for her. Watching you proudly cover bills at restaurants I owned, bragging about connections to staff who actually worked for me. It was quite an education in human nature. The Christmas party last year, James said suddenly. When you couldn't afford to contribute to the venue rental. I owned the venue, I nodded. Just like I owned the hotel where you held your wedding, the resort where Rebecca celebrated her partnership, and the restaurant where Dad announced his retirement. Thomas reappeared with more staff, transforming the suite for the party. Miss Thompson, shall we serve dinner on the terrace? The sunset view is particularly beautiful tonight. Perfect, Thomas. I turned to my family. Shall we? I believe we have a lot to discuss over dinner. Including, perhaps, some overdue apologies and some much-needed lessons about judging books by their covers. Because sometimes the quietest person in the room isn't struggling. They're just busy building an empire while everyone else is busy showing off.